Welcome to The Jeweler's View. I'm Courtney Gray, Metalsmith educator and creative business strategist. After 25 years in the jewelry industry, running one of the country's top metalsmithing schools, coaching artists, advising companies and organizations, and hosting interviews with some of the best in the craft, I finally created the kind of support I wish I'd had from the start. This podcast is a part of that. Each week, I share the lessons I had to learn the hard way so you can build a rhythm that supports your creative work, your values, and the life and business you actually want. Find tools, coaching, and my Transform course at CourtneyGrayArts.com, and let's get to work. So rising metal prices are everywhere right now. This is the topic of discussion. So this whole really month or so, we're just digging deep on this. And if you're a jeweler, you don't need another headline telling you what you already know. What I do want to talk about today is something steadier, because moments like this, when costs rise, markets shift, and certainty feels thin, aren't just problems to solve. They're information. This episode, it's not about panic. It's not about predictions or dramatic pivots or chasing the next workaround. It's about what rising metal prices are actually revealing about our work, our pricing, our assumptions, and our relationship to what we make. And most importantly, how to stay grounded while the landscape changes. Every industry goes through pressure cycles. Jewelry is no different. When materials are affordable, inefficiencies can hide. When costs rise, everything gets clearer much faster. We have to get real. Rising metal prices aren't asking you to quit or throw in the towel. They're asking better questions. What work is truly worth making now? What pricing actually reflects skill, time, and replacement cost? What business model still fits your life, not just your bench or your paycheck, right? Pressure doesn't mean stop. It means the system is asking for refinement. And that's a very important distinction. I'm seeing a lot of the same questions come up in jewelers groups right now. The questions I see most are, should I switch materials? Should I stop making certain pieces? Will customers even understand this change in pricing? And of course, is this the end of small scale jewelry? On the surface, it looks like a materials problem, but most of the time, what's actually being exposed is something deeper. Pricing that was already tight, designs that relied on excess instead of intention, business models built on margins that didn't leave much room to breathe. Rising metal prices aren't breaking solid businesses. They're revealing where strain already existed. That doesn't mean that you failed. It means you're being invited to see more clearly. Let's zoom out for a moment without turning this into a finance class. Historically, gold tends to spike first in uncertain markets. It's treated as a fear hedge. Silver behaves differently. Silver sits in a unique position because it's not just a jewelry material. It's used in electronics, solar panels, medical applications, and other manufacturing. So when industrial demand increases and supply tightens, silver stops being seen as the affordable option, and it starts acting like a strategic material. I'm not making predictions here, but the pattern is worth noticing. When pressure comes from multiple directions, materials change roles. And when materials change roles, makers have to change how they think, not just how they price. Volatility doesn't automatically mean collapse, it means movement. And movement asks for attention, not panic. We do not make great decisions inside of panic. Here's where the silver lining actually lives. Rising costs force clarity. They push more intentional design, smarter decisions about weight and scale, craftsmanship over mass producing, and pricing logic instead of apology. Constraints don't kill creativity. They actually give you the opportunity to sharpen it. Some of the strongest jewelry lines in history were born during times of limitation, not excess. This moment is not about doing more or layering. It's about doing what matters with intention. And that includes identity, owning the role of designer, not just maker, letting go of being an affordable option or an inexpensive option, choosing fewer pieces with more meaning, standing behind your work without over-explaining. This moment is asking jewelers to decide who they are, not just what they make. I saw a post recently from a metalsmith that really stayed with me. She didn't sugarcoat how uncomfortable rising metal prices feel, but she also didn't spiral about it. Instead, she talked about adapting without cheapening her work, using less metal intentionally, designing open backs on her pendants, letting cutaways become components for future pieces, seeing what's removed not as waste, but as possibility. That's not compromise. That's where mastery steps in. That's where we become truly innovative. What struck me most was how she reframed silver itself, not as a fallback, but as a noble metal, something meant to be worn, collected, and loved over time. That's a maker who understands value beyond today's spot price. This is what adaptation looks like when it's rooted in skill and self-trust, not fear or panic, not abandoning materials, not chasing trends, but making intentional choices and standing behind them. Here's a question you don't need to answer right now. Just notice what comes up. If metal doubled again tomorrow, what would you stop making? What would you protect at all costs? And what would finally feel unsustainable enough to change? Those answers are not problems. This is exactly why we're hosting a live panel on February 24th called Rising Metal Costs. Now, what do I do? This is going to be a live session with Melissa Muir, Jeanette Keynes, Holly Gage, myself, and Bette Barnett. I'll be moderating, and we're going to just bring some real life experience to this whole change in the industry. Not to panic, not to complain, but to hear real working jewelers talk honestly about how they're adapting, refining, and moving forward. If you're listening to this later, the replay will be available on my YouTube at The Jeweler's View or on the podcast, wherever you're listening. If you're realizing that what you actually need right now isn't just a price adjustment, but a clear container for decision-making, that's where Transform fits into this conversation. Not as a reaction or a panic, but as an infrastructure. Head to the website CourtneyGrayArts.com and see if Transform is currently open for enrollment, or jump on the wait list. In the next episode, we'll talk about what constraints actually create and why clear direction and understanding of what's working in your business is the real advantage in times like these. Until then, stay steady, my friend. No good decisions come from panic. Onward and upward. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to The Jeweler's View. If today's episode gave you something to think about, consider sending it to a friend or share it on social and tag me at Courtney Gray Arts. You'll find tools, coaching, resources, and the Transform course at CourtneyGrayArts.com. Remember, you're not behind. You're becoming exactly the kind of maker your business needs. And that kind of depth, it takes time. I'll be back next week. Same time, same tough love. Onward and upward.
swinging bowls and stories untold. Yeah, here's to the dream